What if I told you that silence speaks louder than any text, call, or confession you could ever make? When someone walks away, the instinct is to chase, explain, and make them see your worth. But the more noise you make, the more invisible you become in her eyes. Now, imagine this. You vanish. No begging, no dramatic exit, no emotional chaos. Just quiet, deliberate absence. Suddenly, the man who once seemed desperate becomes a mystery, and in that silence, she starts to wonder. Disappearing isn't a weakness, it's a strategy. Right now, you can let the pain turn you into someone reactive and fragile, or you can step back with discipline and let your silence become the loudest message she's ever received. Emotional control isn't about holding back, but knowing exactly when to walk away. If you're ready to step into that calm, grounded power, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I move in silence, but I lead with strength. Number 1. The silent power move that breaks her expectations. Right now, you might feel an almost unbearable urge to reach out, to send that final text, explain yourself, and get closure after the breakup. The silence feels suffocating, like a void screaming to be filled. But here's what you need to understand. That urge is exactly what she expects from you. She's waiting for it, anticipating that you'll reach back out and confirm what she already believes, that you're still clinging, still hoping, still emotionally dependent. This is where you flip the script. Instead of reacting, you disappear. Not out of bitterness, not to manipulate, but to take control. Your silence becomes a power move, not a retreat. In her mind, it breaks the expected narrative. She was ready for tears, for pleas, maybe even for anger. What she wasn't ready for was nothing. Just quiet. Like a storm that never came. In Stoic philosophy, the real power lies in restraint. It teaches us that we don't need to explain ourselves to those who have chosen to walk away. The moment you choose silence, you choose mastery over your emotions. You stop reacting and start living with intention. It's not about punishing her, it's about choosing yourself and recognizing that your peace is more important than her attention. So here's your move: do nothing. Don't call, don't text, don't check her stories or respond to her bait. You don't owe her anything, not your feelings, not your vulnerability, and especially not your validation. Let the silence stretch. Let it become the mirror that reflects her choices at her, without distortion or explanation. And here's where the magic happens. The human brain hates uncertainty. In the vacuum of your silence, she will begin to wonder, was he really that strong? Did he let go already? Did he ever really care? That uncertainty breeds obsession. Your absence starts to speak louder than your words ever could. She begins to feel the weight of your missing presence. Something she once took for granted now echoes in every quiet moment of her day. But this isn't about revenge. It's about growth. You're not doing this to make her suffer. You're doing it to reclaim your emotional sovereignty. You are choosing not to be dragged into a cycle of pain and reaction. You are becoming the man who doesn't just talk about strength, he lives it. And in that silence, you are rebuilding something unshakable, your own dignity. Now, speak out and comment below. I control my mind, no one else does. Number 2, owning the narrative through strategic silence. In the aftermath of a breakup, the temptation to explain yourself, to give her clarity, closure, or justification can be overwhelming. You feel like you owe it to her, or maybe even to yourself, to make things make sense. But that impulse is often a trap. The moment you start explaining, you hand over your power. You let her define the meaning of your actions, silence, and emotions. And in doing so, you confirm her belief that she still controls the narrative. This is where Stoicism offers you a radical alternative. Say nothing. No defense, no backstory, no apology or counter-argument. Instead, choose ambiguity. Let her wonder. By not explaining, you deny her the comfort of certainty. You become the mystery she can't decode. That's power. Not because it manipulates her, but because it frees you. You no longer need to be understood to be valid. You know who you are. You don't need her to agree with your version of the story. Think of it like this. She can label you when you speak, but when you remain silent, she's forced to guess. That guessing creates tension, discomfort, and eventually introspection. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe she underestimated your strength. Maybe she expected you to fall apart. And now she's unsure of everything. That uncertainty starts to chip away at her control. So what's the move? Stop trying to explain your silence. Let it be complete. When she texts you with subtle jabs like, "I hope you're okay," or "I just wanted to talk as friends," resist the urge to clarify. You're not a puzzle to be solved. You are a boundary, a wall for which she no longer has the map. The psychological impact of this is profound. In relationships, we often derive power from being the one who defines what's happening. When you deny her that role, she loses her footing. She begins to spiral inward, questioning what she thought she knew. And in that space of not knowing, your absence becomes a haunting presence, a silent reminder of what she gave up. This is the essence of Stoic control, refusing to act out of impulse or explain yourself to someone who has already walked away. You are not doing it to hurt her. You are doing it because your peace is no longer negotiable. And the more you stay grounded in that silence, the more she realizes she is no longer part of your internal world. Now, comment below, "I control my mind, no one else does." Number 3, turning absence into emotional presence. You may now believe that pulling away makes you invisible, that silence means being forgotten. That's a lie your fear tells you. Strategic absence is one of the most powerful psychological forces you can wield. When you're no longer physically present, your absence shapes her mind. It fills spaces in ways your presence never could. What used to be routine, your voice, your texts, your presence, suddenly becomes a void she can't ignore. This is where scarcity psychology comes into play. People tend to value what they can't have. She may have taken your presence for granted when you were always available. With you gone, the mind begins to romanticize, idealize, and question. Your absence becomes a mirror reflecting the moments she overlooked, the times you showed up, cared, listened. Now that those moments are no longer accessible, they begin to haunt her in silence. Think of it like this. When a favorite song is overplayed, you tune it out. But when it suddenly disappears from the playlist, you start missing it. You search for it, you feel its loss. You become emotionally entangled with what's no longer there. That's exactly how your withdrawal works. You're no longer messaging, calling, or showing signs of life. And that disappearance becomes its own presence, one that follows her into quiet moments, late nights, and idle thoughts. Your job isn't to remind her of your value, it's to remove yourself so thoroughly that she must confront what she lost. You don't have to send a dramatic goodbye. You don't have to signal your withdrawal. Just go dark. No explanations, no updates. Like smoke dissolving into the air, your quiet exit becomes a powerful psychological imprint. That's what Stoicism teaches. Not to make noise, but to move with quiet strength and intentional absence. Here's how you act on it. Unfollow her silently if needed, but more importantly, stop viewing her content. Stop giving any signal of life. Reclaim your time, pour it into your growth, your health, your purpose. Your focus is no longer on what she sees, you focus on what you're becoming. And ironically, that detachment is what makes your energy impossible to ignore. As time passes, the contrast grows. You were once a consistent force in her life, now your absence begins to echo louder than any words could. This echo turns into presence, emotional presence, because the human mind cannot accept loss without reflection. She'll remember, reframe, and maybe even regret, but that's not your concern anymore. You're not disappearing to provoke her emotions, but to protect your peace. Now, speak out and comment below. I control my mind, no one else does. Number 4, letting her confront the void she created. In the wake of rejection, your first instinct might be to soften the blow for her, to remain friendly, to keep the line open, to show that you're still there in some capacity. Maybe it's out of compassion. Maybe it's a secret hope that she'll see your worth again by staying close. But the truth is harsh. Every time you cushion the fallout of her choice, you rob her of the chance to feel its consequences. You become her emotional safety net, and in doing so, you shield her from the very void she created. That's where you must draw the line. The Stoic path doesn't seek revenge or validation, it seeks truth. And the truth is this: if she walked away, she must feel what that decision really means. No comfort, no explanations, no gentle reminders of your presence. She must be left alone with the echo of her own silence, forced to sit with the emptiness she thought she could manage. That void, it's no longer your responsibility to fill. Visualize this clearly. Imagine a garden where you used to water the plants daily. Kindness, attention, affection. Now you stop. At first, nothing seems to change, but slowly the leaves wither, the soil dries, and the beauty fades. Only then does the gardener realize what your presence truly means. That's the psychological power of absence. When you stop rescuing her from the consequences of her own decisions, you force her to recognize their weight. Here's your move. Don't offer check-ins. Don't respond to late-night messages that pretend to be casual. Don't react to her breadcrumbs of emotional guilt. When she tries to reopen the door, you remain still, not out of cruelty, but out of principle. She made her choice. Now she must live in it. The more you resist the temptation to soothe her discomfort, the more she begins to feel the gravity of your absence truly. And this is where regret starts to germinate. Not in the moment of leaving, but in the prolonged silence that follows. That silence, combined with your unshakable self-restraint, creates a psychological shift. She realizes there is no going back to the version of you she once knew. You've grown beyond her reach. You've stopped waiting. According to Stoicism, this is the essence of self-respect. You don't fix what someone else chose to break. You let them experience the break fully while you focus inward, building strength from the same pain that once sought to destroy you. There's no need to react, just be still. And in that stillness, you reclaim the dignity she never truly understood. Now comment below, I control my mind, no one else does. Number 5, stop proving your worth. Silence speaks louder. Right now, you might feel the urge to demonstrate your worth, to convince her through words or actions that losing you was a mistake. It's human nature to seek validation, especially after rejection. You believe that if she could just see how much you've changed or grown, she'd reconsider. But here's the painful truth. Every attempt to prove yourself only reinforces her perception of your neediness. It solidifies the idea that your worth is somehow dependent on her approval. Stoicism offers a powerful antidote to this trap. Refuse to justify your value to anyone, especially someone who has already chosen to walk away. Your worth isn't determined by external validation. It's measured by how deeply you respect your own values and standards. When you stop seeking her acknowledgement, you regain your inner freedom. You become immune to manipulation because you're no longer seeking her approval. Visualize your worth like a precious stone hidden deep within the earth. Its value doesn't change whether it's discovered or not. It doesn't diminish because someone failed to see it. By ceasing your attempts to prove your worth, you become like this stone, valuable, resilient, and unaffected by external recognition. In this sense, silence becomes your strength, statement, and unspoken confidence. Now let's put this into practical action. Resist the urge to showcase your progress. Don't broadcast your self-improvement. Keep your achievements quiet and personal, shared only with those who genuinely support your journey. Refuse to engage in subtle competitions or comparisons. Instead, live your growth authentically, privately, and deeply. The absence of your need for approval will begin to radiate from within, becoming unmistakably clear even without words. The psychological impact on her is powerful. Without your constant validation seeking, she's left questioning her previous judgments. Was she wrong about you? Did she underestimate your strength? Your refusal to justify yourself undermines her assumptions, creating uncertainty. In that uncertainty, regret begins to flourish quietly beneath her conscious awareness. But here's the crucial point. This silence is not a tactic aimed at revenge or manipulation. It's a genuine embrace of self-worth. It's a recognition that your value doesn't need defending or proving. Your peace, confidence, and inner stability are not negotiable. They are your birthright, cultivated through deliberate restraint and conscious silence. This Stoic practice transforms rejection into liberation. By refusing to prove yourself, you assert that your validation comes from within. Her approval becomes irrelevant, freeing you from emotional dependency. You no longer chase acknowledgement. Instead, you attract respect naturally through your quiet strength. Now speak out and comment below. I control my mind, no one else does. Number 6. Rebuilding quietly. Become the mystery she can't solve. Right now, the pain you're feeling might seem overwhelming, something you believe you need to express publicly. You might be tempted to broadcast your progress, achievements, and newfound strength, hoping she'll see how much you've changed. But this impulse to display your growth openly is often just another form of seeking validation, a subtle plea for her attention. True strength lies in silent transformation. Rather than showcasing your evolution, rebuild quietly, privately, out of her sight. Make your journey a silent commitment, known only to yourself and the few who truly matter. Imagine yourself as a seed growing silently underground, invisible yet unstoppable. On the surface, nothing seems to change, but powerful roots are expanding beneath. Your strength and transformation will be undeniable, profound, and entirely self-sustained when you finally emerge. By embracing quiet growth, you reject external validation. You're no longer performing for her approval. You're cultivating genuine inner power that needs no recognition to thrive. Here's the practical action. Commit to silent discipline. Channel every ounce of your pain into quiet productivity. Hit the gym, master a new skill, or excel at your work. But do it without public announcements or fanfare. Withdraw from the urge to prove your change through words or social media posts. Allow your silence to build intrigue, not because you're trying to manipulate her, but because your journey is sacred. It belongs only to you. The psychological effect of this strategy on her is profound. Curiosity becomes an obsession when she senses that you've changed, but can't pinpoint exactly how or why. Your quiet strength makes you an enigma, a puzzle she can't solve, a presence she feels but can't touch. This mystery is powerful. It draws attention, it creates emotional tension, and it generates regret without you ever saying a word. But understand this clearly. Your silence is not meant to torment or provoke jealousy. Its purpose is your authentic personal growth. Stoicism encourages you to see pain not as punishment, but as fuel for your development. By quietly investing in yourself, you reclaim control over your emotional narrative. You turn what could have been public heartbreak into private heroism. And as you quietly rebuild, your self-respect deepens. You no longer feel the need to showcase or justify your progress. Your validation becomes entirely internal. You grow more powerful precisely because you don't seek acknowledgement. Your strength is hidden, protected, and invulnerable to external judgment. Now speak out and comment below. I control my mind, no one else does. Number 7. Becoming emotionally unreachable. Taking back your power. Right now you might feel emotionally reactive to every signal she sends, every message, every subtle hint, every social media post. It feels as though she still holds remote control over your feelings, effortlessly triggering your anxiety, hope, or sadness. This emotional availability is your weakness. The more she senses she can affect you, the more power she retains. Stoicism provides a powerful alternative, becoming emotionally unreachable. This doesn't mean you turn cold or numb. Instead, it means you stop giving her or anyone else the power to dictate your inner state. Your emotions become your territory, firmly guarded and deliberately inaccessible. Visualize your emotional world as a fortress. Previously, the gates were wide open, allowing easy entry and manipulation. Now, it's time to close those gates, not out of bitterness, but out of respect for your emotional sovereignty. You remain composed when she sends a message designed to provoke a reaction. When she reaches out casually, testing the waters, you don't give her the emotional response she's expecting. Your silence is your shield, your emotional unavailability a boundary she can't penetrate. The practical action here is straightforward yet challenging. Refuse to react. Stop analyzing her every action or word. Train yourself to pause whenever you feel emotionally triggered. Take a breath, step back mentally, and respond internally with calm detachment. Do not reply impulsively. Don't reply unless it genuinely serves your personal growth and peace. Over time, this becomes second nature, transforming your emotional landscape from chaos to a sanctuary of peace. The psychological impact of this shift is powerful. When you become emotionally unreachable, she loses the satisfaction of influencing your feelings. She no longer knows how you feel or what you're thinking. This mystery leaves her uncertain, questioning her previous assumptions. It shifts power dynamics entirely, leaving her wondering whether she ever truly understood you. Her attempts to provoke reactions fade as she realizes the gates of your emotional fortress are permanently shut. But this isn't about winning a battle, but reclaiming your emotional autonomy. Stoicism reminds you that your emotions belong solely to you. They aren't meant to be managed or manipulated by others. By consciously becoming emotionally unreachable, you free yourself from external influences. You grow stronger, more grounded, and deeply at peace with yourself. Your self-respect and confidence rise dramatically because your inner world no longer fluctuates based on someone else's actions. Ultimately, emotional unavailability in this context isn't avoidance, it's empowerment. You're not closing yourself off from feeling, you're reclaiming the power to decide who deserves access to your deepest emotions. She chose to leave, and now she no longer qualifies. You remain firmly in control, immune to emotional manipulation, unaffected by external drama. Now, speak out and comment below. I control my mind, no one else does. Number 8. Unshakable in the face of emotional tests. In the aftermath of a breakup, it's common to face subtle emotional tests. Small messages, casual check-ins, or social media interactions to elicit a reaction from you. You may feel tempted to respond, hoping engagement might rebuild a connection, but this is exactly the vulnerability she's counting on. Every time you engage, even slightly, you validate her belief that she still holds influence over you. Stoicism offers a profound alternative. Become completely unshakable. Regardless of what she says or does, you maintain absolute emotional stability. You refuse to step outside your calm, measured, and consistent behavior. Imagine yourself as a mountain, quiet, steady, unmoved by storms. No matter how fiercely the wind blows or the rain pours, the mountain remains rooted in place. When she attempts emotional manipulation, subtle hints, nostalgic messages, or ambiguous signals, your silence and calm presence become your strength. Instead of reacting impulsively, you simply observe. You acknowledge internally that this is merely a test and decide consciously not to engage. Your stability denies her any emotional leverage. Practically, this means setting firm boundaries around your interactions. Do not reply impulsively to casual messages designed to provoke a reaction. If she reaches out, pause and reflect carefully on your emotional state before choosing whether or not to respond. When in doubt, silence is always your strongest option. This disciplined non-engagement signals that you have grown beyond emotional manipulation. Your emotions and reactions are no longer hers to control. The psychological impact on her is significant. Her attempts to regain emotional control begin to fail when your calmness remains constant. Gradually, she recognizes that her power over your feelings has disappeared. Without your emotional responses, she does not clearly indicate where she stands with you. This uncertainty destabilizes her confidence, forcing her to question her own choices and reconsider her previous assumptions about your strength. But remember, this isn't a tactic meant to punish or provoke. Stoicism teaches emotional stability as a path to personal freedom and self-respect. You're not suppressing emotions, you're consciously choosing not to hand emotional authority to someone who no longer deserves it. By becoming unshakable, you reclaim authority over your emotional well-being. Her reactions, messages, and tests become irrelevant, mere echoes in the distance. This newfound emotional steadiness becomes your defining characteristic, a quiet, resilient strength that speaks louder than words. Over time, she recognizes that you've become someone she can neither manipulate nor disturb. You become unshakable in her eyes, and genuinely unshakable within yourself, grounded in clarity and emotional independence. Now, speak out and comment below. I control my mind, no one else does. Number 9. Let her wonder. Mastering the art of ambiguity. Right now, you might feel tempted to share just enough to keep her guessing about your life, to subtly inform her how you're doing, perhaps through social media posts or mutual friends. You think this will maintain her curiosity, maybe even spark regret. But the reality is that even these subtle hints are signals of vulnerability. They indicate that, deep down, you're still emotionally tied to her approval. Stoicism offers a more powerful alternative: true ambiguity. By revealing nothing about your life, feelings, or intentions, you shift from being transparent and predictable to utterly mysterious and unattainable. Visualize your emotional world as a book she once freely read, but now the pages are sealed shut. She no longer has access to your story. Your chapters remain unread, and your intentions remain unclear. This ambiguity creates tension because the human mind despises unresolved questions. Your silence becomes an unsolved puzzle, occupying her thoughts precisely because she can't figure you out. Your intentional obscurity turns your absence into a powerful psychological presence. Practically, this means embracing full emotional privacy. Post less, or not at all, on social media. Avoid giving mutual friends updates about your inner life. Respond briefly, calmly, and vaguely when asked about your feelings or plans. Your aim isn't to mislead, but to maintain firm emotional boundaries. You're no longer providing emotional comfort or clarity to someone who has chosen to step away. She must now confront the ambiguity she created alone. The psychological effect on her is profound. Without information, her mind naturally fills in the gaps. She'll begin imagining scenarios, questioning decisions, and revisiting past interactions. Your absence turns into an unanswered question that nags her subconscious. As time passes, your lack of emotional transparency becomes emotionally unsettling, making her second-guess her choices. This tension often evolves into a quiet form of regret. But this isn't about manipulation or revenge. Stoicism teaches ambiguity as an act of self-respect, not a tool to torment others. Your silence isn't a punishment. It protects your emotional integrity. You reclaim the right to privacy and withhold access from someone who voluntarily stepped away. Your internal world no longer belongs to her. You no longer owe explanations or reassurance. This practice frees you from emotional dependency. By choosing ambiguity, you become emotionally independent, no longer reliant on external validation. Your confidence deepens because you no longer worry about how she perceives you. Your emotional stability flourishes within this intentional obscurity, and over time you realize your strength lies not in what you reveal, but in what you keep quietly to yourself. Now, speak out and comment below. I control my mind, no one else does. Number 10. The power of true indifference when you no longer desire her. Right now, you might find yourself still quietly hoping she'll reach out, reconsider, or realize what she lost. You might even convince yourself you're indifferent. Yet, deep inside, there's still that subtle expectation, that secret longing for validation or reconnection. However, true Stoicism teaches a deeper lesson. Real power emerges only when your indifference is genuine, not forced. True indifference isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about reaching a state where you authentically no longer desire someone who chose to walk away. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a stormy ocean. Early on, each wave crashes into you, destabilizing your emotions. But eventually you move away from the shore entirely, no longer feeling the waves. They continue to crash but have no impact. You're safely out of reach. This represents genuine indifference. You're no longer pretending to be strong. You've authentically moved beyond her emotional reach, fully releasing your desire for approval, attention, or validation. The practical step is simple yet profound. Genuinely detach. Engage fully in your passions, friendships, and goals, not as distractions but as fulfilling endeavors. Delete messages, remove reminders, and let go of emotional ties consciously and permanently. This isn't suppression, it's a decisive and liberating act of self-respect. Gradually, you'll notice your thoughts no longer wander toward her, the emotional waves no longer reach you. The psychological impact of your genuine indifference to her is substantial. People naturally sense when they've truly lost emotional influence over someone they once controlled or took for granted. She begins to feel your absence not as a game you're playing, but as an authentic departure. The finality of your emotional detachment may trigger introspection, regret, and even profound realization. Yet, importantly, at this stage, that reaction is irrelevant to you. True Stoicism encourages you not to seek this reaction at all. You're indifferent precisely because you've transcended emotional manipulation, validation seeking, or revenge. You no longer rely on external validation. Your inner peace becomes absolute, stable, and deeply satisfying. You've reached the highest emotional power, not controlling her feelings, but fully mastering your own. This genuine indifference transforms you entirely. Her actions or reactions no longer define you. Your happiness, worth, and peace are no longer conditional. You become entirely self-sufficient, a man who has fully reclaimed his emotional authority. And in doing so, you discover the ultimate freedom, genuine emotional independence. Now, speak out and comment below. I control my mind, no one else does. You began this path thinking action meant effort, calls, messages, second chances. But now you've seen that real strength lies in restraint, in walking away not to get her back, but to get yourself back. She didn't lose you when she left. She lost you when you chose to disappear without a word and became something she could no longer predict or control. If you're ready to keep building that silent power, like this video, subscribe, and comment below. I am unstoppable. Keep rising. Stay silent. Let your transformation speak louder than your pain.